Hey, this is Wilson. No Jason this week as always. What's up, Galvis?
What's up, bro?
Nothing much, man. So in this episode, we're gonna talk about Frank Vogel officially being relieved of his duties after the Lake. He was officially relieved yesterday. The Lakers season, the regular season in general, ended on Sunday. Vogel was fired yesterday. Rob Pelinka gave a presser thanking Vogel for his time, but saying that the front office felt like there was time for a new voice. We're going to talk about. We talked about a couple of names already that have been floated about as potential replacements for Frank Vogel. And then yesterday it was reported that Nick Nurse, the head coach of the Toronto Raptors, who won an NBA championship the year before the Lakers did under Nick Nurse, that he is somebody that the Lakers are going to be looking at. Um, Galvez, I know we talked about it a little bit the last episode, but what direction would you like to see the Lakers go in as they search for a new head coach?
But okay, the problem here is LeBron because LeBron, uh, I guess it speaks more volumes to the Lakers who have allowed this, right?
Mm-hmm.
LeBron, LeBron wouldn't have been able to pull these stunts in Miami,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's why he left because Pat Riley didn't give in to his every single demand. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he wouldn't have pulled this off in San Antonio, and he wouldn't have been able to pull this off had Jerry Buss still been the owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now you got to ask yourself: is it what LeBron wants, or is it what the Lakers want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, since Kobe, rest in peace, tore his Achilles, this franchise has been on a downward spiral, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got a championship, a bubble championship that still doesn't feel like a championship, right? No parade, no fans, no nothing. And that masked a lot of the problems with the Lakers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Look, this is we've had LeBron for 3 years and we've missed out on on playoffs twice,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, is it really worth it to give in to his every single demand? No, right?
No.
And the thing is that Mark Jackson came up and like does LeBron and Rich Paul, do they just, you know, send these fake statements out because that's who he wants? I mean, Mark Jackson just kind of came out of nowhere. And the
Mm-hmm.
problem is that how many coaches can really coach LeBron, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pop and who else?
Um,
Probably just Pop.
yeah. I mean, I think Spoelstra did a pretty good job, but that's because he had Riley, like you said, behind him. So LeBron knew it wasn't going to be any LeBron power plays because Riley
Exactly.
was in charge there. I think at the
Exactly.
start, LeBron tried to mess with Spoelstra, and Riley was like, "Nah," so
Exactly. And LeBron at the time was good enough to get you to the finals on his own. Not that anymore, right?
hmm
And so um LeBron hasn't earned as far as with the Lakers. I'm not talking about throughout his career. His tenure with the Lakers, he has not earned the right to just walk around and throw all these demands out there. And you got to
hmm
ask, other than Pop, you throw any coach in the NBA on this Laker team, how much better do they do? Right?
yeah,
I know we talked about it before, with the Memphis Grizzlies, that it's amazing what they've been able to do without John Morant. But like you can tell on the bench. I remember early in the season when I was watching the games and during the timeout, you know how they kind of do a little snippet of the bench.
hmm
Westbrook looks like he doesn't want to be there. AD looks like he doesn't care,
hmm
and LeBron looks like he doesn't care. Maybe because it was early in the season, and they're like, "Oh man, this is just this is nothing. We've been here, done that."
hmm
But I don't know if I want like I don't know if I want LeBron in the Lakers anymore. It's too
mm
it's like he doesn't bring championships. He brought one phantom one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he just Kobe never did that. Shaq never did that. Shaq tried to pull it off. What happened? His ass got traded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here comes LeBron, who in 3 years he wants to run the show, bro. And it's and then he sits on the bench while his team is constantly losing, getting eliminated from the playoffs. He didn't even try to play, bro. You know? Um and so I want a coach, and I don't know if there's one out there that can come in and not take no BS from LeBron. And I don't know if there's a coach out there that's available.
Yeah, I will say that I do think Nick Nurse is an upgrade over Vogel. Vogel has had success now with two teams. We all remember the Indiana teams that he had success with, who made the conference finals um, a couple of times. We remember and then but then he went to Orlando, and that didn't go well. And then he came here, and it lasted 3 years. He won a championship the first year. I'll say that I don't think Frank Vogel's a good basketball coach. I think Nick Nurse is better. I think what they were able to do, since Kawhi left, with them being able to stay a competitive team, and people look at that first round matchup that they have against Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is in trouble in that matchup. You know, so I just like the fact that uh, the nurses are able to kind of ride the waves, you know, and keep them competitive. Whereas the Lakers this year basically bottomed out under Vogel, and Vogel. I know those Orlando teams were bad, but 29 and 53, 25 and 57, you know. So I don't know. I think Nick Nurse year to year probably gives you more of an advantage than Frank Vogel does. He has a
But
championship already. Yeah.
but hold on, Wilson. Here's the thing though. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who the coach is. Because if you have Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka in your ear, and you have LeBron in your ear, can a coach really coach this Laker team?
Well, I think because I just get this. I mean, Frank Vogel seems very like his will does not seem very strong. He seems like very agreeable, like he just going with the flow, kind of. It seems like a really nice guy. Nick Nurse to me seems to have more of a presence and an attitude about himself, where he wouldn't be so much of a pushover, so much of a well, I'm just going to go with the
Yeah, but if the
flow.
owner, the person who's signing your checks is telling you to do something, I mean, what can you do? You know, it's
Yeah.
it's it's tough. Honestly, unless the Lakers can flip Russell Westbrook for another star, and I'm talking about a real star, I'd put everybody on the trading block. Everybody.
I said the same thing, man, about how I just don't like this Lakers team, you know. And I was saying that, like I mean, I still feel that way, but before the All Star break, I was talking about how like I don't really, like I was saying the same thing that you said, that I don't like these LeBron James Lakers, you know. Um, I mean, you had more like sophisticated basketball reasons for it. Mine were more just the feeling. It doesn't feel like a homegrown Lakers team. But then when LeBron got up there at All Star Weekend and started talking about Cleveland and all these, I think he talked about Sam Presti and all these different
Yeah.
GMs and stuff like that who were doing a good job. It seemed like he was kind of subbing the Lakers.
And then he
Since
says he wants to play with Steph Curry,
Yeah,
who
it seemed like he was
you
fit.
know, like that's crazy. Like, can you imagine Kobe or Shaq? No, not Shaq. Kobe and Jordan ever saying? Can you imagine if Jordan would have said at the end of his career, "Yeah, I want to play with Shaq." He would never
Hmm.
say that, you know.
Hmm.
And it's just It's a different era. Um, Basketball. LeBron has no loyalty to the Lakers. He doesn't owe them any loyalty. He's a uh, and I think LeBron is the new bully of the NBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
He basically said, I know we're supposed to talk about the coaching, but LeBron is LeBron, so obviously he's going to get the majority of the publicity. He put out there that whatever team my son goes to, I want to play for that team. Who says his son's good enough to make it to the NBA? You know,
Yeah, I think,
he's basically forcing NBA teams to draft his son so that they can sign him. You know,
yeah,
if Bronny James Jr. is not named anything but that, or his dad is anybody but LeBron, he might be a 2-star recruit, bro.
yeah. I don't. If he was anybody else, I don't see what the. I mean, he just seems like just a regular high
Yeah,
school basketball. I mean, he can dunk. He's a pretty good player. He's a
yeah.
good athlete, stuff like that. He's
But
have a
he would
nice
have
shot.
zero hype.
Yeah, but think about the guys who we were, just I mean, not even just the guys that we came up watching, Dewan Wagner and Derrick Rose. Those guys were superstars, What is wrong? What is wrong? 10 points a game, I mean, what are we talking about here? But uh, yeah, I think he LeBron. Yeah, like I was saying, but when LeBron started talking like that at All Star Weekend,
Mhm.
it made me realize, okay, well, now, if he actually, like, say we move him or something like that, and he's not here anymore, I mean, is that really what? What I mean, we know what that was like before that, in between, Kobe and LeBron those years. I mean, that was terrible. You know, I mean, I don't know. It just never really seems like a good idea if you have LeBron James to then not have LeBron James.
Okay,
But
but here's the thing. Okay,
mhm,
year one of LeBron,
mhm,
he gets hurt. We miss the playoffs, right?
mhm,
Year two of LeBron, the season goes on break for almost 4 months,
mhm,
and we win the championship.
mhm,
Year three, LeBron gets hurt, no playoffs.
mhm,
So it's like he's already showed us that he's already no longer capable of playing all 80. He's gonna break down.
mhm,
Like I've said many times before, I don't know how much influence Rich Paul has on free agents. His client,
mhm.
that the Lakers don't want to piss him off because you know he has really good clients, probably the best players in the NBA.
Mhm,
And but I don't like. It's one thing to be a good coach, and it's another thing to be a coach that's going to be able to come in and do what they want and not
mhm,
listen to outside noise.
mhm,
The only person I see that would do that would probably be Mark Jackson.
mhm.
Well,
Yeah, Mark Jackson. Yeah, Mark Jackson's a guy. I've advocated for Mark Jackson before, just because he has, like I said, those big personality guys, a Pat Riley, a Phil Jackson,
mhm.
somebody who thinks really highly of himself and will have the type of that aura to him to deal with the media, to deal with coaching superstars, that confidence, you know.
Yeah,
Now X's and O's wise, you know, I mean, we're gonna be a little bit lacking there. I think we'll play defense. He got Golden State to play defense, you know. Um, but it's tough, man. I just miss the days, bro. Remember, man, when we were coming up, man. You had, you know, I mean, in the '80s, we weren't around for the '80s, but you had Pat Riley, all of the '90s, and then when he won the championship with the Heat, Phil Jackson, Greg Popovich, Rudy Tomjanovich, Chuck Daly in the early '90s. We had big time coaches. Now the players have so much money and so much power that it seems like it's almost impossible for there to be a coach who has the same level of gravitas. You know, like that, like a big time heavyweight type coach. You know,
say
even Steve Kerr. I mean, Steve Kerr has 3 rings, and I don't know if we think of Steve Kerr the way that we look at Popovich and Phil and coaches like that from the old days.
no.
even
And
though Pop is
the
still
thing is,
around.
it just speaks volumes to not just coaches to NBA players, but just today in a society, right?
Hmm.
You can no longer discipline anybody. You can no longer give constructive criticism. And it's just, I mean, you might as well, honestly, dude, you might as, if it depends what your long term solution is or plan for LeBron is, right?
Hmm.
He's signed for this 1 year. I highly doubt he's going to resign unless he just loves LA and cares more about off the court stuff. But might as well just sign whoever LeBron wants.
Well, they
No,
gotta
for real.
figure out. They
For
have to
real.
figure out how to put a team together, man. You know, the pieces have to fit. I don't know how many times teams are gonna realize that unless you have basically a prime LeBron James, that Miami team where they took the big three and then just fill the pieces in around them, and they still have to make the pieces fit. But man, it's hard to just take guys and just put them together on the team and then try to take spare parts and put them around them and get it to work. It usually doesn't work.
Okay,
Um,
let me ask you something though. Fully healthy, does this Laker team make it to the Western Conference Finals?
man, it's crazy because Russell Westbrook. It's not like Russell Westbrook hasn't been on powerhouse teams before. You know, those OKC teams were powerhouses. You know, but that seems that by now like that was so long ago. And again, I don't want to blame Westbrook because I don't think any of this was his fault. You know, the way but I think you have to let. I don't know, man. It just seems impossible that it would have worked because I know they barely were ever able to be on the court together. But man, it just I don't know. It still takes a team to do it, and the pieces have to fit. And I just don't know if the pieces fit. It's just like, okay, we have LeBron and AD. Okay, now we're at Westbrook. Oh, Carmelo Anthony. Let's bring Dwight Howard back. And then
Huh.
everybody else is just it's just random, like Malik Monk and you know Avery Bradley and they got Kendrick Nunn. He never played. They brought Ariza
Stanley
back.
Johnson.
Yeah, a blast from the past. That's not how you build a team. The only way you can build a team like that is, like I
Well,
said,
that's how you build a team around prime LeBron, prime Westbrook, and a healthy AD.
exactly. Yeah.
But we
But
obviously didn't have that.
and I just want to say one more thing about Nick Nurse. I'm sorry about Frank Vogel. You realize he's still only 48 years old. He was in his late 30s when he started coaching. When he became the head coach of the Pacers, and he man, I just know that he thought for sure when they won that championship 2 years ago, he's still young. He's thinking, man, I might have a Pat Riley type. I might have a long tenure here and go down as one of the best coaches in Laker history alongside, Pat Riley and Phil Jackson. I have, LeBron James and Anthony Davis,
All right,
and
hold on, Wilson. But let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this:
2 years later, he's out of here.
did the Lakers fire him, or did the players fire him?
The players fired him, really. The Lakers kind of had no choice, I guess.
Because you would like here, like you would. This is how like. See, this is what I don't like this LeBron team. Like you said, they win a championship. Very next year, they have their two best players miss a lot of time, and they don't make the playoffs, and he's fired.
Hmm. Hmm.
Did you hear about Quinn Snyder, where he was put off by the Lakers position because of the way they handled the firing of Frank Vogel? And
Yeah, and
the
I don't,
thing
I don't
is,
blame him.
and the thing is, I don't know of any coach that wants to coach LeBron James anymore because it's not worth it. He's not good enough to win you to get you to the finals on, let alone the playoffs, right?
Yeah,
It's not worth it. why would Quinn Snyder? He has. I mean, Utah has a lot of drama as well with Rudy Gobert and Mitch, but
Mm-hmm.
but Nick Nurse, bro, in Toronto, he's got an okay team. They're competitive. He's like a god out there. Drake loves him. Why would he come to the Lakers to coach LeBron James? It's not like, and here's the thing. We only hear what's reported in the media. Within NBA circles, there's a lot of gossip. There's a lot of talk between general managers, coaches, executives. Like, you don't want LeBron. LeBron is the equivalent to a toxic woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? A beautiful toxic woman where yeah, she's fine, right? Which the
Mm-hmm.
equivalent is LeBron as a basketball player, but it's more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah.
I
It's
don't think any Laker, I don't think any head coach will even touch the Lakers until LeBron is out of here.
it's
And
like a
it's a shame that LeBron's legacy is being tarnished by the way he's acting. And the problem is that, dude, we already know you're the one pulling the circles with Rich Paul. And then you want to sit back and act like you have nothing to do with anything.
um he's like a woman who she's past her prime, really, or past her peak, but she still looks really good. But at the same time, she's not what she was, and she can't really compete with the younger women. But yet,
Yeah.
she still has the same attitude and the same antics as a young 20, like that she did when she was 23.
Yeah.
When she was the toast of the town.
Yeah.
Now she's
Yeah.
37 and she still looks good. You still like, oh wow, somebody sees you with her and they go, damn, that's a good looking woman you got there. But you're like, man, she's not what she used to be,
No.
but she still has the same attitude she used to have. What
Exactly.
what she was worth
Exactly.
putting up with, in a sense.
You know,
Um,
like and that's the thing. Like if I was put in that position and you got a good thing going on and your team, why would you want to come to the Lakers?
it's really messed up how Vogel, because I mean, he won them a championship, and then they improved the team, I think, last year, but all the injuries, and they just completely ruined the team this year. And he ends up being the person who, he coached them well last year because with all those injuries, they still went 42-30. And then he comes back this year, they give him this terrible roster, and it doesn't work. Well, everybody knew it wouldn't work. I don't think anybody knew it would be this bad. And then, like I said, he's not completely blameless because he didn't use Westbrook the right way. But it's more blame on other places than it is on him. And I don't know if he and Westbrook got along or not. Westbrook kind of insinuated yesterday that there was some type of issue there. Westbrook was saying that he didn't know where it came from because he was, he said he sent when Westbrook first got here, he sent Vogel and his wife some champagne. I think it was Vogel's wife's birthday or something like that. But I guess they had some issues. I don't know. I guess Vogel's just is not the type of. I mean, Westbrook isn't really the type of player that Vogel's used to having or really kind of prefers. But yeah, Vogel kind of he kind of got the shaft in this situation. But Galvez, we should get to the awards now.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Galvez. I'll let
What?
you. Huh?
Okay. So should we start with MVP and work our way down, or start with
Yeah,
the lower and
I
work our
think
way?
we should. I think we should start with. Should we go lower and work higher, or
Yeah, let's do that.
okay?
Um.
Let's start with Coach of the Year.
Okay. Coach of the year, Frank Vogel. Um.
Frank Vogel.
No, if it has to be. I don't even know his name. It has to be the Memphis coach. There's no way it's not him, bro. No way.
Well, I have.
No, dude. For them to have the record they have without John Morant playing 30 or like 25 games, bro. No,
Their
heck no.
coach's their coach's name, Taylor Jenkins. I honestly didn't even know what his name was, but he's done an amazing job. So Galvez is going with Jenkins. I picked JB Bickerstaff just because they had, I mean, they had so many problems with injuries, and they're such a young team. I mean, they lost Colin Sexton early in the year. They were able to replace him with Karis LeVert, and they lost Jared Allen at the end of the year. They lost Evan Mobley for some time, and they were still able to, win 44 games. And I just think to have such a young team like that, with I mean, Garland's really good. I mean, it's close, Galvis. For Memphis to win 56 games and be like you said, as good as they were without Morant. I think Jenkins probably will win it, but I just think the job that Bickerstaff did, was just. I mean, it was Cleveland was the most surprising team in the league this year. To me, you could kind of already see Memphis on the rise, but
Yeah.
so I'm going to go with Bickerstaff. Um, I guess
Most imp-
most
most imp-
improved. Yeah,
who do you got?
I have Desmond Bain from Memphis. There are a few guys that I considered, but Bain, he doubled his scoring average this year. John Morant was another guy who I thought about. I mean, there are a lot of guys who got a lot better. I mean, Darius Garland, uh, Miles Bridges was someone who really improved a lot. There were a bunch of guys like that. But ultimately, for me, for Bain to double his scoring average on the team that won, I think 56 games, he ended up being the guy for me.
I would say, regardless of stats, I would say Jordan Poole.
Okay.
He's played so good that the thought of trading Klay Thompson is no longer blasphemous,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You would have said that even last year while he was injured, they would have killed you in the Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan Poole needs to play 35, 38 minutes. He can't
Mm-hmm.
because of Klay. And like I said, because of Klay's contract and his injury history, and Jordan Poole playing the way he's been playing, just on that fact alone, that you can argue about trading Klay because of Jordan Poole, no one will really like talk shit about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Poole was amazing
Yeah,
this year. Uh, so he was another one that was definitely in the running. So for sixth man of the year, I gave it to Tyler Hero. I don't think there's any question. He averaged over
yeah,
20 points a game off the bench there in Miami. You go the same way.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Rookie of
Um,
the year.
yeah, so my rookie of the year, uh, it came down to Evan Mobley and Scotty Barnes. I went with Mobley because he was so good defensively, and I think ultimately he means more to Cleveland than Barnes meant to. Well, I think Mobley meant more to Cleveland this year than Barnes meant to Toronto. Even though Toronto won more games, they won five more games, but they have kind of an infrastructure in place with Siakam and Anunoby and Van Fleet already and Nick Nurse. But what Mobley was able to do coming in and with his defense and being efficient on offense and stuff like that, him along with Jared Allen, Darius Garland, but Mobley is a a true franchise player already, almost as a rookie as far as his impact, and he's only going to get better. Barnes, I love too. I think he's special. I think Kate Cunningham is really good. I think Jalen Green is really good, but their teams are really bad. So I
Yeah,
have to go with Mobley at the end of the day.
it has to be Mobley. I mean, yeah, it has to be Mobley. Just because if you were to do a redraft, I think Mobley goes number one in 90%, 95% of redrafts. Mobley goes number one.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
Um,
okay. Defensive player of the year?
yeah, so my defensive player of the year is Marcus Smart. It's easy to give it to Rudy Gobert every year, but Boston was, I think, I don't know if they're the best defensive team in the league, but certainly a top three defensive team in the league. And Smart is he's their best defensive player. So I basically gave it to the best defensive player on one of the best defensive teams in the league.
I go with Jaren Jackson from Grizzlies.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
And here it
let's.
is, the MVP. What do you got?
Well, my MVP is Nikola Jokic, man. Uh, I think if ever there was a year where maybe there could be split MVPs, this would be the year. You could split it different ways. You could say Jokic, Embiid, Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Giannis, Jokic. Yeah, I mean, it could go any number of different ways. But I just think, I mean, Jokic had a 33 PR this year, setting the all-time record. Like, he averaged like 27, 14, and 8. They played basically the whole year. I mean, Jamal Murray didn't play a single game. And Michael Porter Jr., I think he played 9 games or something like that, with that, and then had that back injury flare up. So for
Yeah.
me, when I look at it, they still won 48 games in the Western Conference. So I mean, Jokic just had. I mean, it's crazy, man, because that the year that Embiid had will not lead to an MVP probably, but that's what it's looking like.
Yeah, I was on the fence between. I mean, the problem is that this was the one year where for I don't know how long it's been that it's clearly 1A, 1B, 1C instead of 1, 2, and 3. And B, Jokic, and obviously Giannis. But the reason why I would give it to Jokic is for that reason that you said. Giannis had Chris Middleton the whole season, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and then Embiid had Harden for the second part of the season. And what's crazy is that no Jamal Murray all year, and Michael Porter Jr., I remember when he got the contract, so we're like, dude, that could be the steal of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, he was obviously going to be the number one pick had he not gotten injured. And he only played about 9 or 10 games. And for them to still, now obviously, it's one thing to win a lot of games in the regular season. I don't see Denver going that far just because I don't know how far Jokic can take them on his own.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, I give it to Jokic. But what's crazy is that look at what like health has done to the NBA. The NBA has been robbed of great seasons because of health, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like we said. I mean, um, how many of these guys are really trying to go out there and play? They're not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we can't blame them. I always said it's always a lot easier for us as fans working shitty jobs to complain to NBA players. We're not in their shoes, right? We don't know. Um, for example, for us that make under 6 figures a year, it's easy for us to be like, "What? He's complaining over $10 million." But if
Mm-hmm.
you're in a position and you're so close to making real life changing money for you and future generations, you can't really. It's hard. We're not in that position.
What are you trying to say? What do you? I mean, what do you mean?
Like I'm still in favor of them playing hurt. But if you play hurt and you can, and I don't know if you saw this clip about Gilbert Arenas, like saying that a lot of contracts are incentive based, and if they hit a certain amount of average, they don't want to play anymore because they don't want to hurt their, you know. Or sometimes teams will hurt you purposely, like you know, if you're an incentive contract based, you go in for I don't know 5-10 minutes, that hurts your average,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and so they said like sometimes like even if it's a 3 point percentage and you have a wide open three, you ain't gonna take it, you know, if you're at where you need to be.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, dude. That's what Gilbert Arenas said. He goes, just like the teams purposely try to screw over players on incentive based contracts. Well,
Mhm.
players kind of gotta, you know, look out for
Like,
themselves as well.
yeah.
But but yeah, real quick, Wilson. Playing tournament. Who do you got? Real quick.
All right, so we got Hawks and Nets.
Hey, how crazy would it be that the Nets and the Lakers don't make it to the real play
Yeah. No,
after
sorry, not
all the
Hawks and
hype
Nets.
about Christmas game? This is a finals preview. And they don't even make the playoffs, bro. I can't remember another time in the NBA where the two favorites didn't even make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And
So
the
I'm
thing is,
sorry.
these play-ins are just one game.
Yeah.
Anything can happen in one game. Durant gets into foul trouble or he has an off night. You know,
It's
anything
so
can happen.
I'm sorry. It's Cavs at Nets and Clippers at T Wolves. Now, I don't know. I think the Cavaliers they've done so well this season. Brooklyn in one game with Durant and Kyrie at home. If they can't win this game, I don't know what to tell you. But I mean, I don't know if Cleveland's going to have
But it's
Jared Allen. I
that's
don't
the
think.
problem. That's the problem where it's just one game. If you do a
Mm-hmm.
series, Brooklyn wins 10 out of 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen in one game.
And then
Jordan's '96 Bulls lost to the Hornets. I think, or the worst team in the league
yeah.
on any given night. But anyway, so you have Brooklyn winning, and I'm
And then
assuming the Hawks.
Clippers T Wolves is the second one tonight. T Wolves are good. I
Yeah,
think the T Wolves are going to win.
yeah, me too. Especially
Even
because
though
the
Paul
Clippers
George is
are.
healthy.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow is Hornets Hawks and Spurs Pelicans. The Hawks won the conference finals last year, so I'm going with the Hawks. And then Spurs Pelicans.
Spurs.
That's a toss up. You never know. Those teams seem pretty even. And then who knows what happens from there. I mean, there's really no point in trying to project further.
Yeah.
All right, so before we get out of here, just a reminder to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts. The show is also on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and every other major podcatcher. Make sure to follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at TC Pod Network and to like it on Facebook. Just search for the Complete Podcast Network. Send feedback and mailbag questions to CompleteLakersPodcast@gmail.com. We are out.